And on Charlie.
Charles Kirk is still alive. He was never shot by any bullet.
A classical physicist, one of the most respected minds in the field of sound wave mechanics and ballistic motion, has just stepped forward with a claim so explosive, so destabilizing, that it threatens to rewrite everything we thought we knew about the assassination of... According to him, Cherry is still alive.
Hi guys, I am very delighted to hear that you wanted to have me back. Yes, I am the guy that said that classical physics proves beyond any doubt that the shot went into the trunk.
Not hypothetically, not metaphorically, literally alive. And the evidence he laid out calmly, mathematically, and with the precision only a lifelong physicist could command, has sent shockwaves across the entire investigative community. Because for the first time since the incident, someone with undeniable technical authority is saying the unthinkable.
The shot was fired from a distance of 140 yards out at the sniper's nest. The shot went into the trunk, and I can prove this by evaluating all the audio tracks from
before we get
the
started.
smartphone
It is with a sense of profound astonishment,
taken
a genuine
at
disbelief
the
that
UVU
forces you to
campus
reevaluate everything you thought you
9/10.
knew about the world, that we must confront the new evidence, the undeniable, physics-backed revelation that has just come to light, shattering the narrative we've been fed, the idea that Charlie Kirk is, against all reported odds, still alive. This isn't just a rumor. It isn't a baseless conspiracy theory tossed into the wind. This is a classical physicist, a mind trained in the immutable laws of motion, energy, and sound, coming forward with a proof so concrete, so methodically dismantling of the official story that it leaves you breathless, it leaves you wowed, staring at the screen wondering how such a deception could be pulled off in broad daylight. The core of it, the absolute heart of this explosive debunking, is a claim so audacious it rewrites the event in real time. The death was staged, a meticulously orchestrated piece of theater, and Charlie Kirk was not shot, not then, not there. This is the uncompromising premise, the unshakable foundation from which every other piece of evidence flows, and when you hear the physicist walk through the 10 key pillars of this argument, using the cold, hard calculus of reality itself, you will understand why this is a must-watch, a paradigm-shifting moment that pulls back the curtain on an operation of breathtaking precision. Let's begin where all truth in such matters must begin, with the physics. The central analytical conclusion, the North Star of this entire investigation, is that the event was a simulated staging. The individual was not physically struck by a projectile and is, according to this analysis, alive. This isn't a guess. It is the terminus of a long chain of deductive reasoning powered by classical mechanics. Every other point serves to buttress this singular, staggering claim. To stage a shooting, especially one so public, you must account for every sensory detail: the sight, the sound, the reaction. The team behind this, as the physicist outlines, would have had to simulate the injury with Hollywood-grade fidelity. This was achieved, the analysis posits, using a prosthetic device worn under the garment, a sophisticated apparatus combining a pneumatic charge and a synchronized fluid release system. The sudden, jerky movement of the fabric? That's the pneumatic charge firing, creating the illusion of kinetic impact. The immediate appearance of blood? That's the fluid system, likely a mix of stage blood and other compounds for the right viscosity and color, releasing on the exact millisecond cue. This technology isn't science fiction. It's standard in high-end special effects makeup for film and television, where a director needs an actor to convincingly portray a gunshot wound without a single frame of film out of place. The application here is just transferred from a soundstage to the real world, a morbid piece of performance art designed to trigger a specific, global reaction. But a visual effect alone is not enough. The sound sells the reality. And here is where the investigation turns from speculative to empirically formidable, because it hinges on acoustic evidence, the digital fingerprints of sound captured by the dozens of smartphones present at the scene. The physicist obtained multiple audio recordings from different angles and distances, a scattered array of witness devices that collectively form a sonic map of the event. The key to unlocking the truth lies in a classic military and sniper technique, crack thump analysis. When a supersonic bullet flies past an observer, it creates two distinct sounds. First comes the crack, a miniature sonic boom, the sharp shockwave of the bullet itself cutting through the air at speeds greater than sound. Then, later, comes the thump, the deeper, more diffuse sound of the muzzle blast from the weapon that fired it. The time gap between that crack and that thump is a direct function of the distance between the observer and the bullet's path and the distance between the observer and the shooter. It is a timer embedded in the very air, a stopwatch started by physics and stopped by a microphone. This is where the story fractures from the official version. The expert's assertion, backed by this acoustic data and classical physics modeling, is that the bullet's final impact location was the trunk of a nearby vehicle, not the individual's body. This is a monumental shift. It means the bullet was never intended to hit a person. It was intended to hit a prearranged, prepared target. Why a vehicle trunk? Because it is a container, a controlled environment. The analysis suggests that to prevent the bullet from being recovered for ballistic analysis or from causing unintended damage by ricochet, the vehicle's trunk contained a ballistic material insert, something like specialized high-density rubber or a layered polymer designed to absorb and trap the projectile without the dramatic penetration or sparking that metal-on-metal contact would produce. It would silence the bullet, swallow it whole, leaving no credible evidence of its final resting place for anyone not already in on the secret. The trunk becomes a vault, a hidden end to the bullet's staged journey. Now we arrive at the crucible, the data consistency test that forms the core of the physicist's proof. By taking the multiple smartphone audio files, the expert isolated the precise moment of the crack and the thump for each recording. Using the known locations of the observers who took the videos, which can often be triangulated from landmarks and camera angles, the physicist then performed two sets of calculations. The first set assumed the official story, that the crack sound originated from the bullet's path near Charlie Kirk's body at the moment of supposed impact. The second set assumed the new hypothesis, that the crack sound originated from the bullet's path as it entered the trunk of the designated vehicle. For each observer location, the physicist calculated what the expected crack thump time gap should be for both scenarios, using the speed of sound and the geometry of the scene. The results were unequivocal, and they are what make this evidence so wowed. The calculated crack thump gaps for the trunk impact scenario showed remarkable consistency across all the disparate observer positions. The numbers aligned, forming a coherent, physically sensible pattern. However, the calculated gaps for a body impact scenario were a mess, inconsistent, contradictory, violating the simple laws of acoustics. The audio data, the immutable record of the event, loudly and clearly rejects the narrative of a bodily impact. It mathematically embraces the trunk impact as the only physically possible solution. The sound itself testifies to the lie. To bolster this, the physicist didn't stop at simple distance calculations. The key physics model proof involved a more sophisticated layer, Mach cone validation. A bullet traveling faster than sound creates a conical wave-front of pressure, the Mach cone, that trails behind it at a specific angle determined by its velocity. By analyzing the acoustic signature of the crack from multiple points, the physicist could effectively map this cone in space. This modeling allowed for a precise reconstruction of the bullet's trajectory and velocity, ensuring the distances and timings derived from the simpler crack thump analysis were physically sound within a full supersonic dynamics model. The trajectory line, when extended from the presumed shooter's location through the sonic map, didn't terminate at the standing figure of Charlie Kirk. It terminated squarely at that vehicle trunk. The Mach cone geometry acts as a spotlight, illuminating the true path and conclusively bypassing the human target. And as if that weren't enough, the analysis went a further, brilliant step to eliminate any possibility of error or acoustic illusion, acoustic echo verification. The event took place in an urban environment with buildings, hard surfaces, and complex architecture. Sound doesn't just travel in a straight line from source to microphone, it bounces. The raw audio files are filled with these echoes. The physicist meticulously identified the primary echoes in each recording, noting their delay times after the initial crack and thump. Then, using a detailed 3D model of the surroundings, the expert applied the law of reflection, the same one governing light off a mirror, to predict where those sound reflections should have come from and how long they should have taken to reach each smartphone. The precision of the match was stunning. The observed echoes aligned perfectly with the sound originating from the trunk impact point and the shooter's location, and did not align with the sound originating from the body impact point. Even the whispers of sound bouncing off distant walls conspired to tell the same truth. The epicenter of the violent acoustic event was the metal of the car, not the flesh of a man. This cross-validation transforms the proof from compelling to virtually irrefutable. The very environment itself became a witness for the prosecution against the official story. This level of orchestration, however, points to a scale of operation that moves far beyond one actor with a prosthetic. This leads to the inevitable, chilling organizational involvement claim. The physicist logically argues that such a staging, requiring a pre-prepared vehicle with a ballistic insert, a precisely timed prosthetic activation, a shooter firing a real bullet at a precise, non-human target, and the immediate containment of the narrative could not be the work of a lone individual or even a small external group. It required coordination with the security perimeter itself. The expert suggests the staging was a team effort involving the security personnel on site. These individuals, highly vetted and in control of the zone, were likely not infiltrated by an outsider. Rather, they were integral components of the operation. They would control access to the vehicle for its preparation. They would position themselves to respond to the event in a pre-choreographed manner. And their very presence would deter genuine bystanders or law enforcement from inspecting the true impact point. They weren't a security detail bypassed by an event, they were the stage managers for it. This insight chills the bone because it implies the deception was not an attack from outside the fortress, but a script enacted from within its walls. When you synthesize these points, the picture that emerges is not one of chaotic violence, but of chilling, calculated simulation. The bullet, a real projectile, was fired not to kill but to create a specific sonic signature that would be captured by the inevitable sea of recording devices, a signature that, to the untrained ear, would sell the reality of a shooting. Its terminal impact was carefully engineered to be sterile, evidence-free, in the ballistic trap of a trunk. The visceral, horrifying visual of the wound was provided by a hidden effects package, triggered at the exact moment the bullet struck its designated target, creating a perfect audio-visual synchronicity for the cameras. The security team, far from being reactive, were proactive participants, ensuring the stage was set, the props were in place, and the performance concluded without any unscripted discovery. And all of this is not conjecture. It is the conclusion demanded by a classical physics analysis of the acoustic data. Analysis that finds the official story physically impossible and the staging scenario not only possible, but quantitatively verified by the crack-thump intervals, the Mach cone trajectory, and the echoing testimony of the surrounding architecture. The revelation that Charlie Kirk is still alive, therefore, is not a hopeful fantasy. It is, according to this rigorous scientific debunking, the only conclusion that fits the immutable laws of the universe as recorded by our own devices. The news is wowed because it demonstrates that truth, in the end, is written in mathematics and physics, and those laws have just delivered a verdict that shatters the illusion. This is why you must watch, why you must understand the details, because it is a masterclass in using the objective tools of science to pierce the veil of a subjective, manufactured reality. It is unbelievable until you run the numbers, and then it is the only thing that makes sense.